Hi, I'm Nima, and in this video I will show you the painting process I followed while painting this image of Koana from Final Fantasy XIV. In general, my process is not always the same. I switch things up, play around, and find the way that best fits the piece I'm working on. So let's get started with the preparation. For this painting, I actually did some thumbnailing beforehand to test out some ideas and compositions. I wanted to try something more dynamic, so I decided to go with this pose. I also sketched some values because I'm not very good at values, so I wanted to take them more into consideration when preparing a painting. I gathered some references from the internet and also took some screenshots myself. Additionally, I collected some inspiration images from Pinterest. I'm not good at spotting AI, but I'm pretty sure most of them are AI generated. The inspiration for this pose came from one of the skill animations of the machinist job in Final Fantasy XIV. Though while sketching out the ideas, I didn't include the bullets. They came later after rewatching this job skill video. But back to the process. I always start with a real rough sketch of a faceless mannequin. I really struggled hard with the second arm here. Nothing felt right. But after several tries, I came up with a good placement, I think. I choose to do the scariest part at the end, the gun. I don't know what I was thinking when I was planning this out. Guns are so hard to draw. And then there's also the hand holding the gun. And it needs to be in a correct perspective, which I totally messed up. When the first sketch is done, I do a refined sketch. Sometimes I also go directly to the line art, but not this time. I wasn't really sure if I want to do line art or not, so I just did this refined sketch and keep on after that. While doing the refined sketch, I also add a lot more details, sometimes more than necessary, and here I will even remove a lot of them during the painting process. Yeah, but that's why my whole process is basically really messy.
said anywhere.
For the coloring part, I start with painting the base colors. Sometimes when I have no idea how the colors should go, I do a grayscale painting first, but in this case I didn't know all the colors and therefore either color picked them from references or chose some similar colors that I thought might fit best. In the next step, I add some shadows, starting with the folds on the clothing and working my way through the whole painting. After some time, I reached a point where I absolutely hated the painting. Nothing felt right, and everything just looked bad to me. I was just one step closer to abandoning it, but I had invested so much time into it, I just didn't want to waste it. I started using a hard round brush instead of the brush I used for most of the time, which has a more soft edge, and started repainting a lot of parts. I also corrected some parts of his coat and his gloves. I repainted some parts of the outfit, as I found some new references that were more detailed. Here I also removed all the details I drew in the sketch phase, just to paint it loosely, but I liked it more that way over the over-detailed stuff. I was really dissatisfied with his face, so I completely repainted it. I'm still not sure if it's better or not. Then I lightened and darkened some parts for better contrast and added highlights here and there. Also, I fleshed out some details and added more detailed shadows and more light. In my initial idea, I wanted to add some kind of magical effect so that there's not so much empty space all around him. I made some thumbnails to experiment with the flow of the magic, but ultimately decided to just go with some flying bullets, because even though machinist skill animations are really flashy, they don't have a lot of magic itself. More explosions and the like. So it felt out of place to add one of the more magical, flashy ideas. When I started adding the bullets flying towards the user, I wanted to get the perspective right, so I added some vanishing points, sketched the rough shape, and then started painting the base colors, light and shadows. In the last step, I added some kind of fire tail to each of them. After that, I added some diversity into the background color by lightening it up in the middle and started adding some white light magic and movement marks. I applied motion blur to indicate the flying speed of the bullets and also added some motion blur to the arm holding the gun, trying to indicate more movement. For the last part, I added some reflective light to his hair and the parts that might be affected by the magic originating from the gun tip. I adjusted the color tones by using a tone curve tool and thought myself finished with the piece until I noticed that I forgot his glasses, as well as the Mikote face marks. So I added them before finishing up with chromatic aberration and noise effects. My process was sped up tremendously, as the full painting took me around 20 hours. My general process is still really messy and far from efficient. But yeah, that is basically how I drew this painting of Koana. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments and I will reply to them. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.